In my opinion, there are 7 clear playoff locks in the Western Conference for this upcoming season. You've got the Clippers, Nuggets, Warriors, Mavs, Suns, Grizzlies, and the Timberwolves. Those 7 teams, I really cannot imagine missing the playoffs in this upcoming year. But the 8th seed is up in the air. You've got a couple of teams who you can make the argument for, and I'm sorry Lakers fans, but LA would not be my choice. If I had to guess the 8th seed in the upcoming Western Conference, I would have to go with the New Orleans Pelicans, because this team is potentially going to be really, really good. I think they have more questions in them than the 7 teams above them, but I also think it's very possible that we could see a regression from teams like the Suns and the Grizzlies in this upcoming year, and the Pelicans might not even just be the 8th seed, they could be like the 5th or the 6th seed. They really have that high of a potential in this upcoming season, and it mostly comes from their offensive star trio: Zion Williamson, CJ McCollum, and Brandon Ingram. CJ and Brandon are both fringe all-star talents. Zion has the potential to be a fringe superstar talent in this next season, and I am so excited to see him play. Fingers crossed, knock on wood and all that, that he actually stays healthy and actually is that dude, but looking at him from the pictures, the dude got in shape. Like, he's never gonna be skinny. I've seen a lot of people who are like, oh, he's still like a big guy, like he hasn't lost that much weight, blah, blah, blah. Zion is a built guy, like that's his body type. He's never going to be some kind of skinny player. But you can very clearly see that dude is fit. He really does look in shape, especially when you compare him to what he looked like in 2019. I'm thrilled to see him play, and I really hope he stays healthy, just so we get some more highlights, because he's a very fun, very exciting player to watch. CJ and Ingram next to him are great support level star pieces. They can both shoot, they can both create their own offense on all 3 levels. They're going to be very good next to Zion. I just hope that the 3 of them are able to mesh together properly, because we've never seen these guys in a situation, with the possible exception of Brandon Ingram on the Lakers with LeBron, where it didn't work. We've never really seen these guys have to play with 2 other star-level players who all need the ball in their hand. So there's going to be a big adjustment for all 3 of them, but if they can get it done, this could be legitimately the best offensive team in the league, and I fully expect them to be at the minimum top 10. I think being around number 5 is pretty dang reasonable, because you've got 3 offensive superstars, right? And then you've got Jonas Valanciunas, one of the best offensive centers in the NBA today, and an overall very underrated player. He can hit threes at about a league average rate, he's very efficient at finishing around the rim, he's got a good mid-range game, he's just a very skilled offensive big overall, and he gets a ton of rebounds. He and Zion together, and really this whole team's pretty tall, so Brandon Ingram's a real tall dude at small forward as well. This team could be feasting on the offensive boards, getting a ton of putbacks and second chance opportunities. They're going to be really freaking good. Then, starting at point guard, I would assume you go with Herb Jones. It's kind of up in the air. You could potentially start somebody else, like maybe Alvarado, but I would say Jones is probably the clear-cut starting point guard, in my opinion, and he is bringing some much-needed defense to this team. That's my bigger question mark. I think offense is a question because it's how do they all fit together, how do these guys learn to play together. Hopefully they can get it done, and I believe they can. Defensively is a much bigger question mark. Zion has not been known as a great defender. Brandon Ingram has been up and down. CJ is a straight-up bad defender. And Jonas Valanciunas, like I said, he's not a terrible defensive player, but he's not necessarily a great one either. He's a little above average in an ideal defensive situation. So they're really going to need guys out here like Herb Jones to seriously do work on the defensive end for this team to make the playoffs. And that's what he's been doing so far in his career. The guy came in very similar to Matisse Thybulle. You've got this extremely disruptive, extremely smart, and hustles a ton defensive rookie right out the gates. He's just a great defender. He's very fun to watch. And off the bench, this team still has some depth as well. You've got Devontae Graham, who has been kind of terrible while he's been with the Pelicans, but just a few years ago with the Hornets, he was one of the better shooters in the NBA. This man in 2020 averaged 37% from 3 on 9 attempts a game. He can be a fantastic floor spacer next to Zion Williamson. Larry Nance Jr. just got signed for a few more years. He's a solid role player, nothing special, but he can shoot, he can get to the rim a little bit, he's an okay defensive guy. He'll be interesting. Jackson Hayes is one of the most fun lob threats in the game today. He needs to make a lot of improvements, but he's very young. I'm pretty high on him. And then you've got Garrett Temple here as well, who's just he's just kind of there, but he's a guy you can put on the floor, and it's not going to be that big of a deal. Also, Jose Alvarado. Jose Alvarado coming off the bench at the guard position. Another very good defensive player, very fun young player to watch. This team is not a contender yet. Let me be clear, okay? I've seen some people saying that, the Pelicans could be a dark horse, Zion could win MVP. I'm not ready to go that far. Let's slow it down a little. But in terms of making the playoffs, this team definitely has, on paper, the talent needed, especially on the offensive end. Defensively, I definitely don't think they're going anywhere just because they can be good enough in the regular season if everyone locks in, if Zion really, shows the defensive potential he has, but I still don't think they're going to be, a top 10 defense or even top 15 seems like a stretch right now. But that's okay. This is a very young team, they've got a long time to grow, and all we really need to see next season is contending for the play-in spot. I fully expect them to be a top 10 seed, and even if they do happen to lose to the Lakers in the play-in tournament or somebody else, then that would still be some big gains from what they looked like before. They're going to have their ups and downs throughout the year, but this team could be really, really good, and definitely one of the most entertaining teams in the entire NBA next season. I'm very excited to see what the New Orleans Pelicans do in 2023.